mentioned in having that capacity. So with the grader shed functioning fine in its current form and size, would it be possible to postpone this grader shed to a date when we do need a second grader in that region?
Well, we all know that price keeps going up, and to build this building now all in one would likely be cheaper than trying to add on the grader sheds at a future date. The drawing that was attached was drawn by the architect, kind of a quick sketch of what we're thinking. Since this drawing came out, we are thinking that to be cost effective, it's better to make the building a square or a rectangle, so the least amount of jogs possible. So we'd probably bring the fire hall and the offices out to the same distance as the grader shed, just to capture some of that cost savings. But once we got into the design and the cost analysis, that's when we'd figure out that exact benefit. So.
Arliss.
Yeah, I think if I could add to Corey, and just from this, I've garnered this information from conversations with our director of municipal operations, and he can maybe speak to it in better detail than I. But to Councilor Turquito's question, I think it's a very good one. Is as far as like the need for additional grader or additional grader maintenance in that area, I think you would see something being recommended by administration within the next 5 years. And that's probably a little too long, but just based on the current intensity that's being experienced up there.
Yeah, that's right, Arliss. I think the future in this area of the municipality will see the need for 2 graders sooner than later.
So a couple of questions. What in the information you've got here in front of us, you talk about changing a little bit the number of fire apparatus units that would be there. Like, can you expand on that, or am I reading this wrong? And the second one is there what value do you see in the current fire hall that if you were to sell it, what kind of money would get returned out of that? Like,
yeah, I'm wondering.
100,000, 200,000, 50,000.
I'm wondering, and I don't want to overstep my bounds as the CAO, but our delegation at 9:15 is on a bit of a schedule. Do you think we could address those immediately after that delegation and then carry on with that RFD? Would that be okay? Sorry.
Councilor Harris, are you okay just to
that's
wait
fine with
for
me.
that? Okay. So we'll pause this conversation and we will go to the delegations. So welcome, Shaylin. So Shaylin, we'll introduce ourselves and then we'll have you introduce yourself, and congratulations on being Miss Tabor Rodeo.
Thank
so
you.
We'll just start over on this side and we'll go around the room so you know who we are.
Good morning, Brian Hildebrand, Division 3, Grassy Lake and area.
Nice to meet you.
Good morning, Shaylin. John Trucado, Division 2, which is south of Tabor.
Nice to meet you.
Tamara Mianega, counselor for Division 4, which is Tabor north of the Old Man River.
Nice to meet you.
Good morning, Chantal Clausen, Division 7, Vauxhall area.
Good morning, Murray Reynolds, Division 6, Inchan area.
Nice to meet you.
Good morning, Merrill Harris, Councilor Division 1, which is Tabor West.
Nice to meet you.
And then I'll just call us the administrative team.
That sounds good.
Nice to meet
Well,
you.
as I said, congratulations on being Miss Tabor Rodeo. We know there's a lot that entails, but we probably don't even know the extent. So we just thought we would give you a chance to have the floor and share about what you're doing and your experience.
Awesome, thank you. So I'm Shaylin Amon. I am Miss Rodeo Tabor. In October, I'm going to be competing for Miss Rodeo Canada. So it's pretty cool to be able to like take Tabor's Pro Rodeo to the national stage and hopefully win Canada. So when competing for Miss Rodeo Canada, we're judged on a lot of things. So we're kind of judged on horsemanship, public speaking, personal interviews, modeling, personality, and then also tidiness of our space, so our room and that kind of stuff while we're at the competition in Edmonton. So I reached out to the MD just for some support to go towards my entry fee, I guess we would call it, or my fees to compete for Miss Rodeo Canada.
And that was her request was able to be accommodated under the donations policy, under the authority of the CAO, given the amount was $500 or less. So we thought it was prudent to have Shaylin come and just make recognition with council, as she will be kind of representing the region on a national stage. So
Yeah, well, we're very glad to have you. I'll give the floor to any of our counselors who want to make comment.
I just wish you well. It's good to see you representing the MD and the town and the area, and all the best.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good luck. I'm sure you'll do fine. You've done fine thus far, and I appreciate your work.
Thank you so much.
What an incredible opportunity, and I think you'll do great. So best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, good luck and hope you win Canada.
Thank you. Me too. It'd be pretty cool. Tabor would have won twice then.
Good luck to you, and thank you for representing our area.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we see your profile. We saw you at the parade and at Cornfest, and we've seen you at different things at the Agriplex and throughout the region. So it's an honor for us to get to meet you and have some time with you face to face. And you're doing a great job representing our region, and I think they would be wise to think that you could represent the nation. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I'm really excited and proud to be representing Tabor.
Excellent. So I think what we'll do is we'll take your photo right in this ring, and so then we can be proud to be standing beside you, and we can share that on our social media if you're okay with that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so nice to meet you. Have a great day. We'll watch the competition. So we will continue on, but recognizing we will get interrupted at 9:30 as well. And is the DIP presentation online or in person?
I believe they're joining us online here.
Okay. Well, it just makes it easier for us to navigate time. So on the floor, Meryl has a question. I'm not sure if we need to go back and check that, or go ahead, Meryl.
I think I just asked what the value of the existing building was, and then the other one was in the in the material provided here, it talks about reviewing a revised apparatus plan that reduces the number of vehicles required in the fire service. So I'm just curious about those two things. And then the third question, since I'm going to take the third one now, is where's the 744 coming from? Reserves, or just where's that proposed coming from, and what happens to our, or what are our reserve levels if that's where it's coming from?
So the first question, if I can tackle, and I'll definitely use directors for support in this regard. But the value specific to the question, I'll kind of reference the most current assessed value for the current firehouse. $128,100, I think. Yeah. That's the value of that. That being said, the RFD references, I mean, that liquidation or surplus of it is the goal as soon as possible once it's no longer in use. That would be plan A. Plan B would be, if we can't for some reason, would be to somehow get it off of our operating budget, right? So lease it out or something to recover that ongoing operating budget suck. If that's a technical term. But yeah, that would be the motivation there, is to make sure that that building is no longer being utilized by the municipality, and as such isn't incurring any sort of operational expense in that regard. Second question with respect to the fire apparatus. Yeah, the fire services have taken a look at the needs there, and they've kind of approached it from a perspective of addressing them at time of replacement, replacing the apparatus in there with kind of a multi-purpose approach. And I could let maybe Director Serena speak to that in more detail. But replacing one of the when it comes due for replacement, replacing one of the wildland units with a combination wildland / rescue vehicle, and then when it comes due to replace the engine, I think it's referenced in the RFD, it has a little bit of a larger water holding capacity, so that it meets those needs, and given its geographic location. But so they've looked and strategized the apparatus approach in order to be sufficient for a 2-bay fire hall moving into the future, but still meet the needs of that area.
I,
Go ahead, Bryce.
just to add to that too, the exercise of long-term, asset management exercises that we've been going through, we've highlighted some opportunities as we look at procurement options. So looking at some of the availability of apparatus, like the actual purchasing and what's available, and some of the models that are being developed as part of the standing offer groups that are available. In those exercises, we've identified some new options, and so Chief Cote has taken the opportunity to try to look at, like Garlis mentioned, when replacements come up and due, what are new options available, and what do they do for our service delivery? At least maintaining what we provide as service delivery with a different arrangement of units, particularly in this case. So this just contributes to the project and helps support the new fire hall, the new multi-purpose building, better than potentially the old model did. So.
With respect to the question around the financials, the funding side of it, it would be ultimately, I believe, it would be a combination of reserve funding and grant funding that's available. I believe the project right now is funded as a combination grant funding and reserve funding. Just wanting to note on that topic as well, though, I know you didn't ask the question, but the large share of the estimated cost increase here is due to the servicing side of things. Water sewer servicing, which you won't recover very, very soon But there is some possibility to recover some of it years into the future. But that wasn't emphasized because it is so far years into the future, just from a practicality standpoint. It's not a point that I think would be relevant from a decision-making perspective.
Hildebrandt.
Are we ready for a delegation, or are we?
So
have a couple of big questions.
I would
think.
prefer, and I know it's not ideal when we have a big topic like this that I have it so disjointed, but my preference would be to go to the 9:30 delegation.
Okay. So I'll just preface my questions and then.
Certainly.
And then, so a couple of questions, and I'll just kind of leave this and drop it, but it gives time for people to think a little bit. So how far are we in on this project? What is our sunk costs to date? And since we're looking at such a big project, I think it may be a time to consider how we're delivering some of these services, because once we go and spend, well, $2.5 million, it's a significant amount of money, very significant amount of money. And once we go there, then we've kind of set a path for the next 15 or 20 years. And so I'm just kind of wondering, is this maybe a decision fork that we could make? And maybe this is the right decision, but maybe there's other ways we could go with this, instead of having the same some costs that we need to recoup over the next 25 years. But I'll just kind of drop that.
Okay, I've written them down. I'm sure admin has as well. So we're going to come back to this topic, but we had council requested to have the assessment services branch give us a overview and discussion on designated industrial property assessment, and they have joined us today. So I'm going to turn it over to CEO Crofts and then to introduce them. And just while he's getting set up, we'll do a quick round table for the folks who are online so they're aware of who they're speaking to.
Good morning, Brian Hildebrandt, Councillor Division 3, Grassy Lake and area.
Good morning, John Trucato, Councillor for Division 2, just south of Tabor.
Tamara Mianega, Councillor for Division 4, Tabor, north of the Old Man River.
Good morning. Chantal Clausen, Counselor for Division 7, Vauxhall area.
Good morning, Murray Reynolds, Division 6 Counselor, that's Enchant area.
Good morning, Merrill Harris, Counselor Division 1, which is Tabor West.
And then
I'll turn it over to Arliss to introduce the subject and his team, and then we'll turn it right over to the assessment services branch.
Very good. So we do have the from Alberta Municipal Affairs, the DIP assessment group here to provide kind of an outline and presentation of their branch and the services that they provide. This was coordinated with the help of our Director of Corporate Services, Mike Passy. But with that, for those on the DIP assessment team that are here online, perhaps you could just whoever's designated to give the presentation, provide introduction to council, and then as we progress through the slides, just tell me next, and I'll go to the next slide as you are done with each.
Great. Thank you and good morning. Thanks for having us today. My name is Brad Hurd. I'm the manager for our industrial sites team with the assessment services branch. Joining me today is Joanne McKinnon. She's listed as Joanne Fortin on her name there, but it's Joanne McKinnon. Rest assured that's the proper name. She's the manager for our linear team. Also joining us is Weston Bennett. He is one of our linear advisors on the linear team, as well as Mary Orifa, who is our communications person. We're very happy to be giving this presentation to you today. And thanks for going through the slides. I'll just I'll let you know when to advance. So I'll kind of kick it off here. Again, it's if you just want to go to slide 2, this presentation will be broken down between myself and Joanne. I'll kind of kick us off, and then as we get more into the nitty-gritty about the assessments that pertain to the MD of Tabor, I'll flip it over to Joanne. Joanne is uniquely positioned to give that presentation, given the large amount of electrical power generation assessment in your municipality. So if we just quickly talk about what we're going to talk about today. We're going to explain who we are. We're going to go over a kind of a breakdown of our operational cycle, point out some key dates within that cycle. We're going to talk about the DI requisition, what that is, how that relates to you and other municipalities. And then we're going to get more into what designated industrial property is, the different types of designated industrial property, which team is responsible for each, and then we'll get into the assessments of those designated industrial properties within the MD of Tabor, give you kind of an overview of the 2025 tax base that was assessed to the MD of Tabor, as well as just a little historical view of the last 3 years of the trend of where designated industrial properties have gone. We'll also then talk a little bit about some other key dates or information that might be applicable to you and your municipality. The presentation should only take around 10 to 15 minutes. It's hard for me to see hands raising, so rest assured we should have plenty of time for questions at the end of the presentation. So if you have a question, please make sure to jot it down, and we'll be more than happy to provide answers at the end of the presentation. Okay, so jumping into who we are, we're your designated industrial property assessment team, and we work on behalf of the provincial assessor. We're a multidisciplinary team. We have skills ranging from property assessment to engineering, accounting. We have geospatial and data analytics expertise, as well as property management and general quality assurance. We're also equipped with some very advanced computer administrative capabilities, and ultimately our team is responsible for preparing, amending, and defending the provincial assessment role. This then allows a municipality such as the MD of Tabor to impose a property tax on those designated industrial properties. So if we'll move down to the next slide here, I just wanted to give a quick overview of our branch and our leadership team. So within the Assessment Services Branch, which we affectionately call the Provincial Assessor's Office, we're on the top, we have our Executive Director, Victoria Bachman. She's the Executive Director of the Assessment Services Branch. And underneath her, we have Michael Menard, who is the Director of our Centralized Industrial Property Assessment Team, as well as Michael Tochin, who's the Director of our Linear and Data Management Team. Mike Menard also holds the appointment of provincial assessor. And then the other managers listed here help oversee the day-to-day operations and efficient running of the branch. Joanne and myself listed on that line. One note I will make is our manager of finance and admin, who municipalities often talk to when discussing DI requisitions, Ken Anderson. I'm pleased to report, very exciting for him, that he's retiring within the next few weeks here. So we will have a new person moving into that role as manager of finance and admin. But as always, anyone who's listed on this chart is available to answer any questions you may have throughout the year regarding your designated industrial properties in your municipality. Okay, so jumping down to the next slide, this is a lot to unpack, so I'm very glad that the presentation was circled earlier. This is our 2025 operational schedule. Now, I'm not going to go through everything on this schedule, but I will highlight a few key things. Back in January and February, these are the two key dates for our mailing of notices. So you'll notice that the linear assessment notices were mailed January 31st, and then the industrial didn't get mailed out until a month after. We're always hearing about how municipalities may like us to align these mail out dates, so we mail all of our notices on a certain date. We're working towards that. It's a large operational consideration, but that is something that we are working towards. So hopefully we can kind of narrow the gap in the 2026 mail out and beyond. Another thing to kind of point out here, and we will talk about the DI requisition, so I'm going to jump over that. We're going to talk about that later. But much like your municipal assessors, we have many revision or amendment runs that we do throughout the year. Our first one was called the A1 or the Amendment 1 run. This is where we, correct any errors or omissions on the roll. That first one was sent out on May 12th. And then if we jump down to the very left on the bottom line, we actually just mailed out our second amendment notices yesterday, and that was for linear and industrial. So if you haven't received those yet, rest assured you will shortly. One other thing that I kind of wanted to point out on this slide is our RFI process. We are not any different than your municipal assessors who would send out requests for information forms. However, this year we broke it down into two different RFI mailouts. The first mailout, which we called the major cost reporting mailout, we sent that out on May 26th. And the intention of this mailout was to target the more larger facilities, whether they be linear or industrial facilities. And that was to give both the property owners and their representatives, as well as us, a little bit more time to deal with the complexities of those projects. It's going well. That's something that we're probably going to consider doing next year as well. But that just pertained to a certain segment of properties. The majority of our properties received their RFI from the industrial side anyways on August 18th. So just under a month ago, we mailed to the majority of our properties. And much like your municipal assessor, property owners have 60 days to respond to requests for information, which we're asking them to confirm details of their assessment, ensure the accuracy of the roll. The linear RFI won't be sent out for a couple of days yet. It's set to go out next week. So those are kind of the key dates of the operational cycle. We do have other placeholders for further amendment runs if needed. You'd note one here is listed as November 10th. If we need to send more corrections out, we will through that amendment run. The very end of this chart shows supplementary notices. The MD of Taber doesn't have a supplementary bylaw, so that's not applicable to the MD of Taber, but we do send out supplementary notices in December, and then another one for any corrections a week later. Then in the middle of this chart, we have our routine things that we do. One is a quarterly report run where we'll send well drilling activity reports quarterly to municipalities. We also do mailing address updates quarterly, although it's seeming to be more frequent than that. And then we also send out a quarterly newsletter, which Mary and her team help prepare. So that's kind of an overview of the operational cycle of our office. Again, it's not much different than what you would find from your municipal assessor's benchmark assessment. But if you do have any questions, please let us know at the end of the presentation. I know there was a lot to unpack on this slide. Okay, so then if we jump down to the next slide, and I promised we'd talk at DI requisitions. So the DI requisitions, so what that is that's pretty much the same as your tax rate that you would see on your side, your different mill rates. The requisition rate's based on the provincial assessor's roll and the amount that's required to operate centralized industrial property assessment. So in March of every year, a ministerial order is prepared and it's approved by the minister. And that order is then sent out to all CAOs with the updated requisition rate. Then in April, the Municipal Affairs website gets updated with the new rate, and municipalities with designated industrial properties apply that requisition rate to the eligible properties or the designated industrial properties. This requisition is then collected by you and other municipalities on behalf of municipal affairs, and payments remitted to the Government of Alberta within typically 30 days of the municipal taxes due date. And then in February of the following year, that's when there is a tax requisition reconciliation, if you will, where they calculate the requisitions and see if there's any differences and if there's any amounts that are owing or being needed to be refunded. Those are sent to the CAOs, and that again allows for any unpaid balances to be reflected in the upcoming year. So that's kind of the overview of DI, the DI requisition. Long story short, it is the requisition that funds our operations, centralized industrial property assessment function. Okay, so then jumping down to the next slide. this is where we kind of get into what I'm passionate about, the property types. So there's two different property types when we talk about designated industrial property. The first property type is linear properties, which is shown on the screen here. Now, linear properties consist of property that's often cross-jurisdictional throughout Alberta. These include pipelines, wells, telecom, cable distribution, electrical power systems, electrical power generation, and then railway. It's important to note that linear property has always been assessed by the Assessment Services Branch, with the exception of railway. Railway prior to 2018 was assessed by the municipal assessor, but then with the centralization of designated industrial property, railway was added in 2018 to the definition of linear property. So those are kind of your linear properties. That's one aspect of DI property. And then if we jump down to the next slide, we'll get into the second type of designated industrial property, which we just call industrial properties. They used to call them nonlinear properties, but now we refer to them as industrial properties. To make a long story short, these are facilities that are regulated by the Alberta Energy Regulator, the Alberta Utilities Commission, or the Canadian Energy Regulator. They include things such as well sites, batteries, compressor stations, etc. But they also include the bottom row of properties, which is a unique property known as a major plant. So they could be terminals, gas plants, refineries, such as oil sands facilities. They could also be pulp and paper or lumber mills, petrochemical facilities. Major plant properties are pretty much anything that is deemed by the minister to be a major plant. And you'll find these in the Machinery and Equipment Assessment Minister's Guidelines at the very end in an appendix. It's a big long list of all the major plant properties. So there's really three types of properties. There's linear, there's industrial, and then there's major plants. But the industrial and major plants are all within that industrial property bucket. So these are the types of properties that myself and my team assess on an annual basis across Alberta. Okay, then if we just jump down to the next slide, this is a really busy slide. This shows all of the industrial properties within the MD of Taber. Now, not a lot to kind of unpack from this because this is a busy map, but I'll try to give you a couple of numbers, and they were shown, I think, they were shown, maybe they weren't shown when you were presented this. If you want these numbers after, please reach out and we can provide them to you. So for the 2025 tax year, just to give you a rough idea of property counts, we had approximately 3,007 wells, another 3,700 pipelines, another 37 telecommunication assessments, 12 railway assessments, 70 electrical power generation, 137 electrical assessments, and then 3 cable assessments. Now, those are the linear assessments. And as you noted, the first two, 3,000 wells, 3,700 pipelines, the majority of your inventory is on the linear side of the fence. When we look at the industrial properties in the MD of Taber, for the 2024 assessment year or the 2025 tax year, we had 744 industrial properties. So the bulk of the assessment in the MD of Taber is on the linear side. So that's why we're fortunate to have Joanne and Weston with us today to walk you through the various aspects of the linear assessment. So before we do that, before I turn it over to Joanne, I just wanted to walk you through on the next slide, just a summary of the 2025 tax year for the DI assessments within the MD of Taber. Now, we provide 3 years of data, but the dollar change and percentage change only relate to the last year. So the change between the 2024 and the 2025 tax years. So this chart is broken down, the chart on the right is broken down between linear properties and industrial properties. So industrial properties can be shown at the very top. So for the 2025 tax year, the MD of Taber had a total of 268 million of assessments in industrial DI properties. Now, if you look at the trend over the last 3 years, this has been a very flat number. We haven't seen a lot of movement on this. There's been some change up and down. modifiers, assessment year modifiers change on an annual basis. We do see some sites that get shut in. We get some sites that, some new wells that get drilled and surface equipment gets added to. But on the grand scheme of things, it's been very flat on the industrial side of the fence over the last 3 years. If we drop down to the second part of that chart on the right, this shows our linear property. And as you can see, the majority is linear property. 867 million assessment dollars pertain to linear property for the 2025 tax year. I won't go through every category, but I'll make note of a couple of important considerations. You'll notice a drop in the red of cable. That's simply due to cable being moved into telecommunication carriers. So there's really not much of a change there. The majority of the change that you've seen between 2025 and 2024 has been on electrical power generation. It went from 249 million in 2024, and now it's at 322 million for 2025. So a rather large jump on the electrical power generation between the last 2 years, 72 million or 29%. And if you look at the very bottom of this chart, it shows the totals for the MD of Taber, and you could see that, between 2025 and 2024, we saw an $81 million increase, and 72 million of that, 81 million of that is pretty much all linear property. So your linear property definitely dominates the landscape with respect to DI property in the MD of Taber, but that kind of gives just an overview of where your assessment base is. As noted before, we're always available to answer these types of questions or give these types of historical data to your council if requested. So if you ever have any questions about where your DI property assessment base is, please reach out to us at any time and we'll kind of give you an idea. It's hard to give projections. You probably might have heard that from your municipal assessor. We try to not get into the projection side of things, but if you want a historical view, we could definitely provide you with that. Okay, and finally for me, I'll jump to the very next slide and just kind of give you an overview of the province as a whole for DI property assessment. So the chart shown on the screen shows the last 5 years of assessments for a DI property in the province, and it's broken down between linear and industrial, and it shows a steady but modest increase year over year across the province. The total assessment base for all DI property for the 2025 tax year was $211.3 billion. Quite a number. There's obviously a lot of oil and gas and other DI types of property throughout the province. But as you can see, it's kind of an even split this year between linear and industrial. The MD of Taber, your majority of your property is on the linear side. Other municipalities is the exact reverse. Most of their property would be on the industrial side. So when we look at it throughout the province as a whole, it's a pretty even split. 118 billion come from the industrial side, and then another 93 came from the linear side. Linear definitely saw the biggest increase between last year and this year. 15%, almost 16% of the linear base went up. Compare that to the industrial, which we only saw a modest 4% increase. And again, that could be due to various different things, shut-ins, new wells drilled, new sites added. But on the whole, assessments are healthy across the province and DI property, certainly in the MD of Taber. That kind of takes me to the end of my portion of the presentation. I'd now like to pass it over to Joanne McKinnon, who will walk you through the rest and with a specific focus on electrical power generation.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to explain the assessment process for EPG. Considering that the MD of Taber went up about 29%, we thought it was important just to explain our process. Electric power generation is a little bit different because there's two groups that look after this assessment. You have Brad's group, who looks after the industrial sites. That includes the land, the fencing, and the buildings, which is assessed on the industrial roll. The reason behind this is because in the linear definition for electric power systems, it doesn't include the land, which makes both units having to assess these properties. So the land is assessed at market value, and it's based on an area in use, which means it is the area occupied by the different improvements. The fencing and buildings is typically assessed using rates from Marshall and Swift and are valued based on their physical condition as of October 31st. So as soon as what the trigger is as soon as we receive AUC approval, that is when designated industrial land steps in and takes over that assessment. It's Murphy's Law. When you get on a call, the dogs start barking, right? So for the generation components of this, my part that my team looks after, is we take it over. Linear starts assessing these property types when we get the energization certificate. Many times we get a question saying, you know what, these wind turbines are turning, and you know they started turning before October 31st, but you guys don't have it assessed. Say you guys start seeing the turbines start going October 20th and you consider it operational. It's not the case until the commissioning is done and we actually receive a date from the AESO saying, you know what, this project is energized, and we get a certificate. So that's how we do that. That's when the trigger for us to put it on the roll. How we do it is we send out RFIs to the stakeholders, and we ask for their project costs. We then go through what they submit. We ask for supporting information on anything that might not be considered part of the assessment. We really go through these projects to make sure that we're following all our legislation, which is the CCRG for these type of builds. They're relatively big, so, you know, and quite complex, so it takes a lot of time going back and forth on these. Okay, you can go to the next slide. So the current inventory for electric power generation in the MD of Taber is you have 5 solars projects, 2 wind, a gas facility, and a biomass facility. They have about a $322 million in assessed value. 319 million of that, so about 99% of that is your wind and solar. The industrial buildings and land assessment is about 12 million for these facilities. You can go to the next slide. For the 2024 assessment year, we added Wheatcrest Solar, which was about $65 million. Yesterday, we did send out an amended assessment. Wheatcrest was part of that. It had a slight decrease, and that is just because we received our requested information from the tax agents, and they were able to support item that was previously included in the assessment and that was excluded. I'm not sure exactly of the decrease, but I believe it was, I shouldn't even say, I think it was $1 million. We also had 2 more additions to your roll for the A2, and that was 2 little solar facilities. Barnwell and Fincastle were added, and they were both slightly under 1 megawatt, I believe. You can go to the next slide. Upcoming projects. We have a project that is supposed to be completed in 2026, phase 1 and 2, and that is a solar and battery storage facility. The battery expected to be done in 2027. And we also have the Coaldale Wind Energy Project, and it's expected to be done in 2028. And this is a wind solar hybrid energy project. This here, I was reading about this project, and it actually said at one time it was supposed to be self-supply. That means no power would have been hitting the grid. But apparently the AUC didn't approve that because the generation wasn't actually on the property, and that's one of the rules. So it says electrical energy produced and consumed on the same property, it is a requirement for self-supply. So In fact, as a result, the self-supply classification was not approved, meaning this project may require different regulatory pathway and will be a conventional generation facility and supplying power to the grid. So that one will be a linear project here in the future in 2027 or 2028. Okay, next slide. As everybody knows, we had the tax holiday policy. It expired after 3 years this year. For the MD of Taber, we had 45 pipeline assessments and 3 well assessments that added $2.8 million to the MD of Taber roll for the 2025 tax year. Going on to the AMAR update, the assessment model is still, the work is still underway. We're still working on the CCRG. We're expecting some decisions expected in late 2025. The next phases is the engagement on the other assessment models. They are to be done in phases. I have heard that some of the linear models will be the ones that they will be looking at first, especially telecom, because it's so out of date. So I'm hoping that one will take precedence, but we'll see what my seniors go ahead with that. And the assessment year modifier, 2024 administered guidelines for regulated property assessments approved with changes from the AMR process. And if you want more details, they're always available on our website. Next slide, please. So a big part of designated industrial and working with different municipalities is communication. It's communication with council, is doing these presentations. It's being involved in, some of the conferences that we have. We can listen to any concerns, complaints, comments, have a better understanding of what we do here at Municipal Affairs. Just so we can, provide fair and accurate and timely assessments for the municipalities in Alberta. Next slide. So what we're seeing is there is a strong growth industry expansion with, the DI assessment growing by 9%, while growth was just moderate for industrial property. Linear properties saw more of a significant increase. And why that is, I think last year we added 30 electric power generation facilities. When I started being manager here 3 years ago, and I've been working for Linear for 8 years now, 7 years ago, we were adding 4 or 5 projects a year. Now, electric power generation, we're adding up to 30, majority of them being wind and solar. We've seen a geothermal. We had Cascade here in Greenview, just added this year. So, with that, all those coming online, we're seeing, I think $10 billion, $9 to $10 billion added a year for electric power generation. With the tax and holiday expiring, that's why you saw such a increase in well and pipe. The 211.3 assessment is expected to generate about $2 billion in tax revenue for municipalities. Also, $390 million for Alberta School Foundation Fund, reinforcing the province's commitment to education. For continued enhancements to DI property and assessments, including the AMR process, improved complaint management, which we are really working diligently on, and refining our assessment practices. We are committed to collaboration, fairness, transparency, data-driven decision-making to ensure a sustainable, effective system for the future. That is the end of my presentation. We are open to any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Turcado.
So I have 2 questions. At what rate of depreciation, what rate of depreciation is used for renewable energy generation on the equipment side?
Wind and solar or all renewables, we have a table in our linear minister's guidelines. So where it starts is it is automatically depreciated by 25%. So it starts at 75% and it stays that way for the first 7 years of the project. After that, it gradually declines down to 20%, where that is the lowest it can go.
And then a follow-up to that would be the land that's used to house wind and solar projects. How is that land underneath those projects assessed? Is it assessed as agricultural land as its previous use, or is it assessed at industrial, its current use?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll answer that one. My team handles those assessments. So it's really a two-part answer. So let's first talk about wind turbines. The land at wind turbines, we use an area in use. Often it's around 0.25 to 1 acre in size. That area is assessed at market value. Now, where that market value comes from is the marketplace. We have a very, very great relationship with your municipal assessor benchmark assessment. They're obviously quite the experts in the local market, so we work together to establish a correct market value for these sites. When you look at the solar, though, that's where you get into your second part of your question with the agricultural use. Generally, a solar facility would be assessed all at market value, unless there is an area that's outside of the, the solar panel area that is being used for agricultural purposes. In that case, that area that's outside of the, the solar panels would be assessed as farmland at an agricultural rate. Now, there's something coming into Alberta right now called agrovoltaics. We're not really sure where this is going. It's quite new, where they're talking about doing more integrated farm use within the solar panels themselves. So this would be in between the rows of panels. That's something that we're going to have to deal with when we cross that bridge. We're not seeing many of these operations. They take a few years to get going. So that's something that we're going to be reviewing with our policy team to see how those are treated. But generally, use the assessment follows the use. So if there is an integrated farm use, you would expect that there would be a similar treatment on the assessment side. Does that answer the question? Okay.
Somewhat, I guess. So when you're assessing the market value using, I guess it would be whatever land has been marketed for, instead of the assessed value that's done by designated industrial properties and farmland. So when you're doing that, is that assessed at agricultural sales or industrial sales?
Industrial sales.
Because it's currently industrial sales?
Yeah, well, for the wind turbines, those would be more industrial sales. For the solar facilities, larger land sizes, those may be influenced somewhat by ag sales, but generally our focus on our market analysis is on non-farm sales. Given the uniqueness of these properties, as well as the low amount of sales volume in rural areas, sometimes we have to bring in more sales to the mix than we kind of want to. Generally, we typically want to follow looking at non-farm sales, because these are non-farm properties. But there is kind of a mixed bag going on with that. Sometimes we are influenced a little bit by the agricultural sales as well.
Thank you.
Hi, Merrill Harris. You might have already answered this question because it's similar to what Councillor Takeda asked. On page 13 of the current EPG inventory page, I think he asked how fast does solar depreciate, and I'm going to ask the same question, and I'm going to pick on Wheatcrest Solar. So it's almost $65 million assessed value this year. So say in a year from now, is it 10% reduction, or is it more than that, or like how fast does solar depreciate? Is my question, and I know Councillor Takeda's question was similar.
The depreciation stays the same for 7 years. So it doesn't start to depreciate till that 8th year mark.
So for how many years it stays the same?
7.
And then it can depreciate all the way down to 20%. Is that what I understood?
That's right. That's right. And I can send the table if you would like. I can share that easy enough. If you would like to.
Please do.
Yeah, I'm seeing nods around the table. They would like that.
Okay. Okay.
Arliss.
Just a question with respect to that depreciation rate. Do assessment year modifiers impact that as well in terms of slowing that, in effect, slowing the actual outcome of depreciation down?
It can. You have your, so it's a rate, it's rate base. Well, it's not rate base, it's cost base, but there is, your Schedule A is the cost to build. So your included cost on that facility. And then you have times your AYM. So if the AYM went down for any particular reason, that could also affect your assessment. And then that's your B, and then your C is this depreciation, and that starts off at 25% depreciated for the first 7 years. So AYM could affect the value as well.
And since you'll be sending something, I was wondering if on page the slide that says industrial properties in MD of Taber, you Brad had mentioned that the numbers of the different sites, if that could be included, the breakdown of industrial properties.
Do you have that, Brad, on one of the slides? Yeah, I think that's there, and maybe I just didn't mention it.
Yeah, we can definitely send that. Absolutely. We have the breakdown. We can easily put it into
when you
a
read
little
it
note
out,
for
I
you.
thought I'll record it, but it would be just nice to have that number.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Thank you. Questions from any other members of council or from administration? Yes, Councillor Turcato.
Just wondering if you guys have any inclination as to the mature asset strategy when it comes to oil and gas, if that's going to be rolled out next spring, or what's happening with that and what level of decrease we might see on some of these older wells.
Joanne, do you want me to go?
You can go ahead, Brad. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, no, I don't really have any information on the mature asset strategy. I do know that the policy team is looking at that quite closely. I'm not sure where it's at in the process or what the proposed timelines are with it. Yeah, I wish I had more for you, but I don't. But if you wanted to have someone with your administration reach out to our policy team, I'm sure they'd be more than happy to provide you with any information that they might have on that.
Thank you. That was a bit of a tough question.
Yeah, we love the tough questions.
Just circle back to the renewable power plants a little bit. So by table down to minimum of 20%, and then it goes that way in perpetuity, or until they're decommissioned or reclamation is done, or what is the out clause at the end?
It would go till the life of the project, till it's decommissioned, till it's not producing power to the grid anymore. I don't see that happening. I can see them replacing components on these projects, but I don't actually see them decommissioned at this point in time. But
because there is some history of some of them being decommissioned, particularly in the foothills to the west here. There's been a couple projects that have been decommissioned. So it has happened in the past.
Which do you know which ones? Could you?
Pincher Creek. The Pincher Creek Wind, just west of Pincher Creek.
Are they really? They're probably really old, right?
Yeah, that would have been put up in the 80s, I think, was when it was installed.
Yeah.
And I think they are decommissioned now. So there is history of that, and nothing lasts forever.
No, nothing lasts forever. I just think with the new technology that has come out over the years, I can see them replacing them. The gearboxes, the blades. Maybe they will be decommissioned, but I just think with some of these newer ones that they're just going to replace the components if they're making money on these projects.
So if my math serves me correct, using the Wheatcrest Solar, it's currently valued, let's say, at 64 million. At the end of 20 years, we'd be taxing at 12.8, and that would go into perpetuity as long as they were operating that facility. I would take it unless there was an upgrade and a change in the panels, and then that it would go back up, I would assume.
Yeah, if they have any capital expenditures on this project, then that means, if it increases efficiency, if it increases any sort of age life, then we would add that component to the assessment, and that would change the life of, in the depreciation tables. So, it decreases, there's no change in the assessment except for the depreciation. But if they are making capital expenditures and improvements on this project, we do add them to the assessment.
So with that, if they're going to change, let's say they're going to retrofit and put all new panels on, is that something that's required for them to report to
Yes.
AER? AUC, I mean?
If they're say if you have a 15 megawatt solar farm and all of a sudden they're going to increase megawatts, they have to report it to the AUC. They also have to report any changes to us every year. If we're not seeing any changes over several years, we do reach out to these stakeholders to find out, have you not made any capital expenditures? I realize some is operation and maintenance, which we don't assess, but yeah, they do have to, if they are making any changes to these projects, they do have to put in an application to the AUC or a disposition, or we're notified of all the changes to these projects through the AUC.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions? We thank you for taking the time with your team to come and explain this. I think it's very informative for us to have a clear understanding of all assessment that happens in our municipality. And I'll just leave it to you guys for any closing remarks.
I'll just reiterate that. Thank you for having us today. We're always more than happy to come and talk about what we do. Designated industrial property, we know the significance of this and how important it is for municipalities and in their assessment base. So if you at any time have any questions, if council has questions or administration, please contact us. Anybody that's shown on our leadership chart can be contacted. The assessor that you'll probably see most often down there is Ryan Mastel. He lives in Lethbridge. He's been assessing property in the NB of Taber since 2019. Very knowledgeable of the area. We have a great working relationship, and he does as well with your municipal assessors. So if you do have any questions, you can reach out to Ryan, you can reach out to me, Joanne, anyone else of the team. We're always here to help you guys understand your DI assessments better and how they relate to you. So thank you for having us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, have a great day.
You as well.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Council, I'll receive a motion to accept the presentation.
I can make the motion to receive the presentation.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments? Those in favor? Okay, I propose we take a 5 to 10 minute break, and then we will resume with the Enchant Fire Hall. Okay, we will resume the meeting. We are continuing on with the Enchant Fire Hall Capital Project proposal, which is now includes the operation shop. Councillor Hildebrandt had a couple of questions. The first one was, how far are we on the sunk costs to date? And how are we or will we consider how we are delivering the services and if there are alternatives?
I'll let our Director of Corporate Services and Municipal Operations speak to the first question.
So as of right now, we've paid FWBA, I believe, $28,000. The contract we have with them, we pay on a milestone-based type of work. Because the project is taking longer, we did pay them 25% of their 60% design. So that's where the 28,000, I believe it was, came in. If we were to cancel the project at this point in time, we would likely be faced with substantially more than $28,000. So I don't know what that would work out to be. Like I said, the contract we have with them is on a milestone base. So
I was just kind of wondering too, because this is a significant change in scope from how it was presented initially to council. And so it's almost like it's a completely different project than what was first put to us. It's very, very different. There's a scope creep here, put it that way.
I guess, are you asking if there's going to be additional costs from FWBA?
Well, yeah, that as well, because this is a change in scope.
Yeah.
And so that proposal and the estimate or quote from that point in time, is that still valid?
So we have had that discussion with them. They have told us they will hold their fees for the change of scope. So there will be no increased fees.
With regard to the design work?
That's right.
Other questions from council?
Yeah, sorry. Can you go back and explain the infrastructure problems? Like you said that the lines were, you have to insulate them because they're too high. Can you go back and explain that all to us? And how much of an increase, how much of the $700,000 increase you're looking for is attributed just to that much, to that work?
Yeah, so where we had planned to take the sewer service from is to the north. I don't know what street that is, but just to the north of the site. That's where the current facility is being serviced from. It actually, from what we understand, runs through the house. So the service runs to the house and then from the house to the shop. We want a dedicated service run to the new facility. For us to do that, once we surveyed the main line on the north side of the property, it's too shallow to take it into the new facility, because we actually drop in elevation as we head south. We lose cover, which suscepts it to frost. So we'd have to insulate that whole sewer line. The water line, it's not that much of a concern, because we can drop that and it's pressurized, so we can put that wherever we want at whatever depth. So it's more the sewer line. But if we ran from the west, we're coming up in elevation. So our sewer main runs right down here in the grass. So it's actually not even in the road. It's down in the ditch. And it's shallow through here. Our plan was to take a sewer main and run straight up this alley to the new facility right here. Because we drop in elevation, like I said, we lose cover, which opens it up to frost damage. The plan that we have now is to come back to, there's a manhole right here. Extend this manhole over and then up this property line all the way to site here. Not only will that service our facility, but we also own this land right here. And that opens up potential for residential development along this main. So it will serve as a dual purpose. It won't be a sole cost burden by the fire hall and greater shop.
So just wondering what the estimated cost would be of that sewer upgrade coming from the west in its totality, not necessarily just to the building.
Right. It was roughly half of that, 744.
Other comments? Go ahead.
So the 744 is primarily for that infrastructure then? Is
Roughly half, yep.
roughly half. Are there other locations that would be more cost effective to build in? 'Cause that's, like, it's a lot of money for some pipes.
It is. I guess we gotta keep in mind that it does potentially service other areas of the hamlet for residential development. Have we looked at other areas? Not necessarily, no. We don't. Aside from that parcel of land that could be residential, we don't have anything else that would be easily accessible with graders and servicing, so.
Because, yeah, in my head, it's a lot of money to service a building. A lot of money to service a building.
So I see it as much more than that. And anytime you do a project and you recognize midway that you better pivot before you build a white elephant, it is definitely worth the discussion because we need the greater shed. We need the fire hall. I heard your question about alternative service delivery. I mean, fire is a volunteer organization. Alternative service delivery, I wouldn't even want to consider that for fire. And on the roads, there perhaps is a possibility, but regardless, our business has been roads and we've acquired these new graders and we know that area, the demand is higher. So as much as this is annoying to find out about where the pipes are, there is I'm quite relieved to at least recognize we didn't go ahead with this project and then they come to us later and say, oh, but by the way, this isn't actually going to work. And now we'll have to retrofit or change things. So I do think this is a worthwhile discussion. And it was really us who pushed the idea of integrating them together. That wasn't a admin suggestion. It was us thinking we found a solution. So I think it's worthwhile all of council weighing in on this to determine if this could be a solution for that area of the municipality. Go ahead.
Just thinking towards the future, I'm wondering where we are at with the Vauxhall Fire Station and the capacity there and when we see the need for expansion there. And if there's not opportunity for something more central and to think big picture north of the river rather than having little buildings everywhere.
As far as Vauxhall current capacity right now, I believe it meets the needs of Vauxhall today. that's your question.
I do recall seeing a like 10-year plan. I'm just wondering if building expansion was in that. I can't remember.
Oh, okay, I can refer that question to Bryce or Nathan.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, I believe that the Vauxhall Fire Hall is currently meeting our needs in that area. I believe our fire service and the equipment that we have there is meeting the needs for the area. And I would say maybe even a little bit above in the fact that we're sort of the larger central station, which is able to go out and assist with our smaller neighbor departments that are in that area. As far as future expansion of the fire hall, I don't know of any need at this point in time to do any future expansion, with the exception of I believe EMS or AHS might be doing a bit of a project in the back, which is not an expansion of our building. It would be some living quarters for their staff, which is really has nothing to do with us, I guess.
Councillor Clausen, just so I'm clear, were you thinking a standalone site that would service everyone? I'm not sure that, I mean, we went through what happened in Barnwell, we've seen what happened in Tabor. To remove a site outside of the town of Vauxhall, I don't know that that's,
Did look up the distance between the two. It's 22 minutes.
and
So
so
if
is
you were
that,
halfway, that's
is
10
that a
minutes.
viable, like, I
I
don't
would
know
say
the
so.
answer. Yeah, so do we know what that would be? Is that a viable number? I have no idea.
Right. I believe that would, I mean, I think it would ultimately require additional discussion with that other municipal partner before we make a foreshadowing decision today
For sure.
on that topic. But
So since we were the ones that wanted the combo haul or whatever, so this one that you have here for us now is just capacity for one grader. What happens? I'm wondering if we get two graders, are you gonna piecemeal it together, or what's the plan?
No, the current sketch that is attached to the RFD, that will house 2 graders.
Okay, I must have had a different picture then. I could get the picture at home, but I couldn't get it here.
Yeah, right there.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay.
Councillor
Can you go
Harris.
back to your the picture you had of where the shop was gonna be, the overhead picture,
Google.
yeah, right there. So you're talking where all the, and what I'm guessing these are all cars right here. You're saying that's our property there?
That's right, yeah.
And in your envisioning, how many more lots can you, what is there, like 4 lots there on the north side? So you, potentially there'd be a road in here and there'd be room for perhaps 4 more lots?
4 to 6 lots, yeah.
And if you put that pipe in the ground that we're talking about, that would service sewer and whatnot for any new additional lots there.
That's right.
Well, when all that new lots gets purchased, Murray.
Almost hit 6.
I know. Okay, well that,
Yeah, the sewer, I know myself, it's time you go on the south side of that shop, the ground is dropping down, so you'd be uphill, and by the contour of the ground, it would run to the new site you're proposing. It's got agreed to it, so it would work well.
I mean, it's another, yeah, go ahead. You have a question? Give us some more of why we need to do this. I'll let Councillor Clausen ask her question while we get ready for you to answer this.
I do think there's a larger service delivery discussion to be had here. If it's getting busier in the area, more intense, the need for more graders, we're already looking into contracting individuals. I think there's more to the story here that needs to be discussed.
I think that's what this is trying to address as well. I mean, looking at two operations-based services and one emergency services-based service, is that this project does address that exact reality that Councillor Clausen brings up. The area is getting much busier, and that's what this does try to address. In terms of giving you more as to why you should do it, that's kind of one and the same answer.
Is 2 graders enough?
I believe so. If we were to need more, the division lines or the districts would change, and then we would likely house more in Vauxhall.
And what is the capacity in Vauxhall to house graders? And how old is that facility?
Currently, we have 2 facilities in Vauxhall. Space for 4 graders in Vauxhall.
Councillor Hildebrandt?
As alluded to, like we're already doing another provision of grading in that area. Before we go deeper with buildings, should we see how that plays out? And maybe that is the way we want to go. Instead of building more infrastructure that we ends up being a sunk cost for the MD, that might be the way we want to go on a greater scale. And then, you know, we're going 2 directions at the same time here.
Yeah, and that alternate method of service that you're talking about, I have stated before that it's not a long-term fix for that type of service or contracted service. I believe we will be having this conversation at the committee of the whole next week. We'll have a conversation around this exact item, but road use agreements are not meant to be long-term contracts. They're a short-term contract for short-term hauls. There are other methods, in my opinion, that are better suited for long-term type servicing of roads.
But I guess this is one of the costs of maintaining a fleet of equipment that never or very rarely gets accounted into the operations. But ultimately, it becomes a cost of delivering the service. Is this other infrastructure? It's not doesn't directly have a labor component, a manpower component attached to it. The reserves aren't allocated to it for that operation, and so the road maintenance part of the cost is buildings, but we kind of separate that out as a general overhead for the municipality. But it really is a cost for road maintenance, and it's at this point when we're talking about putting up a building, it comes forefront. If it's an existing building, you don't really think about it. Well, we have it anyways, and we'll just park in there. But when you're doing a purpose-built building for road maintenance, it really is a cost for road maintenance.
Can you bring up the floor plan again, just for my benefit? So just on the, I'm going to call it the north side of this building, the existing building is still there, correct? And you're still planning to have that building. So if you needed one more grader, it could go in the old building. What are your plans for the old building?
The old building would be converted to Hamlet's.
Oh, just Hamlet,
Hamlet's shop.
like mowers and that
Mowers
sort of stuff.
and, yeah, supplies, valves.
And what building we're currently using for, I guess, Hamlet equipment and parts?
They share that building with the grader right now.
Oh, sorry. Again, just on the finance side, you talked about grants and whatnot. Can you elaborate on what grants you might have and what, where's the money come from? I just don't remember exactly where we said the money was coming from, reserves or?
Yeah, Mike, can you break down thanks.
So the project is currently funded 575,000 from the fire reserve, 540,500 from the LGFF grant, and 540,500 from the CCBF grant. There would be room with within the fire reserve as well as the LGFF grant to make up the difference of that 744,000.
So just if I wrote it down fast enough, 525,000 from reserves.
575 fire reserve, 540,500 from LGFF, 540,500 from CCBF.
Right, that's what I got.
So fire reserve, is that also responsible for equipment or is that only for facilities?
The fire one covers anything related to fire, so whether it's equipment, engines, buildings.
So what would be left?
At the end of 2025, it's projected to have an ending balance of 1.2 million. And at the end of 2026, it's projected to have depending on how budget discussions go, at this time would have a projected balance of 1.3 million.
I know it's a terrible amount of money, or it seems like it is, but this area of the municipality is growing, so I'll give you the motion that the municipal district of Taber approve an amendment to the 2025 capital budget related to the Enchant Fire Hall project, increasing the project budget 744,000 to include new construction of the fire hall and operations shop multi-purpose facility.
Thank you. Yes.
So I don't know that I can support the motion only because I think there does need to be a broader discussion on well into the future, looking at emergency services in the area. And maybe there is an opportunity to build something new in the future. It doesn't have to be today. Because this is functioning well for both services as we speak. But in the future, we will have to look at it. So giving us an opportunity to look at that, looking well into the future, because the person that brought that up is much younger than me, and I appreciate her perspective.
I won't be voting in favor because I do think there is more discussion to be had. I do see the need for a broader discussion and emergency service upgrades, but I can't support this without more discussion.
I would also like to see some alternatives here rather than just the one proposal. I think we need to have a more of a comprehensive look, as was just stated, on how we are going to manage this situation. So I will be voting opposed as well.
I'll vote in favor of the motion because we know that the Enchant Fire Hall isn't functioning. We know we have a pressing service need in the Enchant area. I am concerned that we already have a $28,000 sunk cost and that the owner of those costs or the company has agreed to maintain the cost that they bid on within the confines of whatever that price is. So they weren't increasing their price. We do have a design draw. And the idea of having a regionalized fire system standalone, we'll need to find the land and whether you're going to be able to have a fire station standalone in the middle of 11 minutes away, if it's even functional, those are a year or two of discussion. And right now we know that the fire hall doesn't function properly. We've heard mention of that 8 years ago when I got on council, that they had pressing needs. It is an incredible amount of money, but when we decide not to, if we decide not to move forward, we're already impacting the service delivery on the roads as well as the safety to those residents. So I'll be voting in favor.
I'll be voting in favor of it as well. I think we were the one that asked for the combo building. This will house the second grader. And I think last year the fire hall was on the budget too, but it got shut down, and maybe if we'd moved forward then, we wouldn't be where we are today with the increased cost and price. The longer we keep waiting, the higher the price will go.
Okay, any other comments or questions? The motion reads that the MD of Tabor approve an amendment to the 2025 capital budget related to the Enchant Fire Hall project, increasing the project budget to $744,000 to include new construction of the fire hall and operation shop multi-purpose facility. I'll ask to record the vote as well. Those in favor? Those opposed? That motion is defeated. Administration, could you give us a perspective on what happens now?
Yeah, my perspective is a defeated motion gives us sufficient direction to move forward with not really addressing the project. So we can probably remove it from the 2025 carryover projects and then reallocate or reorganize those funds to be considered for other priorities or other projects as we prepare for 2026 budget. So I think that I mean, a defeated motion gives us the same kind of direction as a carried motion. So
Okay, and
we'll
then
carry forward with that.
then those project funds from the, I don't know if I'm using the right word, project manager, the amount that we owe them, that will just come from this allocated money, and they'll just get that because we'll failed on their contract.
Yeah, and we'll close that out.
Okay, so that will be a loss to the municipality and have nothing going forward. And we know already it's 28,000.
We'll have what we paid for though.
Right, okay. All right, thank you. So we have a delegation at 11 a.m. Are you expecting others, or so are you okay to go?
If you want. Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, so the delegation at 11 a.m. falls under request for decision non-bylaw, Town of Tabor Southeast Area Structure Plan. So I'll give it to Arlis to introduce, and you're welcome to come to the front. And our meeting is recorded, so you have to push the button, and then the red light will stay on the duration. You don't have to hold the button. And I don't know that everyone knows you, so while Arlis is getting this set up and we're adding our planner, Bonnie Bruner, we'll introduce ourselves.
Good morning. Brian Hildebrand, Councilor Division 3, Grassy Lake and area.
Good morning. John Tricato, Division 2, which is south of Tabor.
Tamara Mianega, Division 4, which is Tabor north to the MD River.
Good morning, Chantal Clausen, Division 7, Vauxhall area.
Good morning, Murray Reynolds, Division 6, Inchan area.
Morning, Merrill Harris, Tabor West, which is Division 1.
I'll introduce myself. I'm Hillary Jansen. I'm the Director of Planning Development and Economic Development with the Town of Tabor. I'm a little new here. I've just been at the town for just about 3 months. So nice to meet all of you.
Thank you. And I'll just turn it to Arlis to introduce the subject.
Yeah, so the matter at hand is the town has initiated, I guess from a logistical perspective, the development of its Southeast Area Structure Plan. That's described, and those that are on the Town of Tabor IDP committee, I think, would be fairly familiar with what that is and the area that it references. The area is as an attachment. The area sketch is referenced here as well. So they are looking for ultimately confirmation from the MD of Tabor that development of that plan begin. Ultimately, we're okay with it beginning. Naturally, and I'll let the two planners in attendance speak to this as well at some point, but naturally I do believe this will lead into conversation around future annexation as well. It'll lead to discussions around what typical ASPs address from a planning perspective and servicing perspective, but it likely will, from what I understand on the topic, lead to annexation discussions between the two municipalities as well. With that, I'll let perhaps Hillary speak to that. The ASP.
Yes, thank you, Council. I just wanted to have a kind of a confirmation and a talk with the MD Council just to confirm that we're all on the same page with regards to the intent of the intermunicipal development plan between the town and the MD. I know that there's been anticipation of this plan for a good number of years. That's my understanding in talking to Bonnie and your staff at the MD. So as per your information that you have in your agenda package and the letter that I had sent, the town is just looking to get some confirmation, consent from the MD Council, something that we can have for when we retain our consultant on the project to move forward, to move forward knowing that we're going to be working on this. And obviously we're going to be working on it with the MD's staff, both Bonnie Bruner and any MD staff that wish to participate along with MD Council. So as per my letter that I had submitted, the area structure plan that we had put out for proposals, it closed on September the 4th, so last Thursday. And so we are in the process of reviewing the submissions for that, and we're looking to award that particular RFP in the next week or so. So with that, if there's any questions that you may have on the details of it, it is a very typical area structure plan, fairly high level given the area that we're looking at. It's a big area, and so we're looking at kind of high level like land uses, traffic. We'll have a traffic impact assessment. We'll look at stormwater. We'll look at servicing. All of those things will be included, and throughout the process, there'll be consistent touch points with the MD on this. And then we'll look at what that looks like in terms of an approval process, how we want to look at that approval process with the MD. That's something that I'll look at with with Bonnie and MD staff to confirm how we want to proceed at that very final stage. Any questions?
I have one. So it is in the map here, is the yellow line signifying the area? Because my understanding when we were looking at development that's going on in the Walmart region there, was having a more defined area or a smaller area, because what we saw and what I see daily is the dysfunctionality of that area when it comes to traffic flows. And so I guess I was looking for something more defined. This seems like it's a very broad, a large area. And I understand the need for that going to the future for sure. But presently we were facing something that is currently dysfunctional.
Yes, so what we've done is we have a broader area. And so what will happen is that you'll go from something that's a little bit bigger. So you have our intermunicipal development plan, which is quite large. And then we're going to narrow it down with the area structure plan. And then once we we'll probably have an implementation phase where we'll look at the kind of like what they would call probably an outline plan stage, where we would look at that finer detail on because obviously this includes not only commercial, but it includes a little bit of residential here and there, and maybe some lighter industrial on both the MD and the town side. So we'll as we narrow down on terms of development happening, we'll get more details. But I know that there is a concern with regards to that that one intersection specifically, which is why we've included the area not only in the town side, but on the MD side to the east. And that will be an area of focus in terms of a traffic impact assessment. So just something for you to know that we're very cognizant of that and aware of what that situation is, and it will be probably addressed in this plan, and then in consultation with, like I said, with staff and Bonnie Bruner, we'll make sure that it is meeting the needs of everybody, so that we're not missing anything.
Thank you.
And council, I would just like to add that administratively, we have met with town planning staff and did convey the importance of having a more comprehensive look at that Walmart area, specific to the transportation network and servicing. And as Hillary had indicated, the area does require looking a little further east to make sure that that entire area is going to be able to function on a sort of comprehensive transportation network. And so that's why the area is expanded eastward. And that area isn't identified in the IDP as a growth area, but is integral to understanding how that area is going to function in the future.
Thanks, Bonnie. Councillor Harris.
I know in the past there was discussion around, excuse me, annexation and annexing, for one, the town water lagoon. And then I also believe that, and it's been quite a number of years ago, the discussion was the land in 31916 Southeast 31916, that landowner wanted to be annexed in for development purposes. Is there any forward movement on any of those sort of fronts?
Thanks for that question, Councillor Harris. With regards to annexation, I think the IDP kind of speaks to that area being 3A and 3 and 3A and 3B. being areas that are for a growth, considered a growth area for the town. And so with this plan, we're looking at having obviously our market analysis that'll feed into that future annexation discussion. So that should be something that flows out of this plan. That's what I would anticipate. And obviously that's why we want to have these ongoing conversations with the MD, so that we have clear expectations, that that we're both on the same page with regards to the intent of the IDP and the intent of any future annexations or growth on both the towns and the MD side. I hope that answers your question.
Any other questions? Any other comments from admin or the planning team?
Not at this time.
Oh, we're glad to see this come forward. We've been feeling there's a need for some time, and we're happy to have you on board so that you can facilitate this for us. And between our administration, planning team, and intermunicipal meetings, we'll look forward to the progress so that we can ensure the development is the best for the entire region. Okay, so council, they are requesting, admin has a motion. If we are interested in that, the recommended motion.
I give you the motion that the municipal district of Taber provide formal consent to the town of Taber to proceed with creation of the Southeast Area Structure Plan, and that the MD of Taber request the Southeast Area Structure Plan include the comprehensive transportation network and framework for future development of the Walmart and surrounding development area, more specifically from Range Road 16-4 to east of 55th Street South of Highway 3.
Any questions or comments on the read-in motion? Councillor Hildebrand.
It is very important that that area, Range Road 16-4, east of 55th Street, is noted in the motion. I concur that, and the messaging from the town actually was that that's a dysfunctional area, and that really needs to be addressed. So I'm happy to see this moving forward. Very happy.
Thank you. All right, so the motion was read in. I'll read it one more time. MD of Taber provide formal consent to the town of Taber to proceed with the creation of the Southeast Area Structure Plan, and that MD Taber requests the area structure plan include a comprehensive transportation network and framework for future development of the Walmart and surrounding development areas, more specifically Range Road 16-4, east to 55th Street, south of Highway 3. Those in favor? That motion's carried.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to join us, and we look forward to what's to come. Thanks, Darren. Okay, we're moving on to 8.3, the Regional Economic Development Partnership Plan.
Thank you, Reeve Nega, and I'll let Director Serena just speak to this matter.
Thank you.
Thanks, Arlis. Council, we have been this is our opportunity now to bring back to council a partnership agreement that's been presented to the Committee of the Whole back in September. So there's been quite a time period between now and when we originally presented as part of our strategy around economic development. We're bringing back feedback as well from our partnering municipalities. So at the time, it was recommended that we reach out to our neighboring municipalities, both the Village of Barnwell and the Town of Vauxhall, in partnership, and to look at expanding our partnership, essentially expanding the municipalities that are contributing to regional economic development in the region. And so we've done that now. That did take some time, and we presented the agreement as well as gathering feedback from each municipality. I I would say that we didn't get any formal feedback, but we did get some discussions primarily focused on just what some of those individual projects might look like and how the municipalities would participate in each individual project that would roll out in the region. So not that we didn't have an answer, we provided an example and we added it to the agreement just so that each municipality would have an opportunity to look at what say a project at a percentage level would look like. Primarily for information. Each project we anticipate will be unique in its own merits, depending on which municipalities would be participating, depending on the project, of course. And we the basis behind the regional partnership in economic development is under the term the Taber region. So this is the marketing, this is the economic development component of the partnership, and it was well received by the partners. So referring to the economic development partnership as the Taber region, I'll say that just to say that again, and that is really what we want to start referring to our more collaborative approach to economic development and looking at those projects that are truly regional, and then looking at them through the lens of partnerships and collaboration. There is a second part to this, and I just introduced the idea that a next step in this, after formalizing our partnership amongst municipalities, so an intermunicipal partnership, would be to look at our JEDC, so our Joint Economic Development Committee, and we're going to look at that our terms of reference for the JEDC as to ensure that we position that committee to really be very specific as far as helping determine the projects and look at the region as a group, including the businesses in the community, and then provide recommendations like most of our committees, our committees of council would provide recommendations back to the committee or to the councils, to each municipality, recommending partnership projects, and then also to gain support from the municipalities, whether it be in the form of resources or funding, budgets, and such. So we do really want to make sure we have that process in place that really helps to support our projects, and that we just have have some of these more formal components so that we have the municipalities so we could each support projects that are integral to our communities. The partnership agreement that's in front of us today has had some changes to it. Primarily are just wording changes around adding the JEDC to make reference to the JEDC as being that advisory committee, and then just referring to more focused on projects rather than any other language, just so the partnership is really focused on looking at, again, guidance on projects and guidance on budget, guidance on resources for the communities. I can take some questions that might help the discussion move along, and then we can certainly talk about what next steps would look like as going forward.
Thank you. Any questions from council on the regional economic development collaboration?
So can these collaboration initiatives or ideas come from more than just this group? Should they come from any one of the partners or community members? Would that also be an avenue to, I guess, create something or a thought?
I would certainly hope so. I would certainly hope that because we're utilizing the JEDC and we're having each municipality have opportunities to bring regional projects that, on behalf of their communities, that we will get businesses participating, chambers, any entity that's at the table that really does have a stake as far as economic development goes in the region. We would hope that those ideas will flow into this regional partnership that way.
Okay. I mean, we have been working hard and we've had our mandate towards doing economic development and current business retention. So I'm glad to see this at the table and at a motion level. So if there are no further questions, I'll ask for a motion.
And give you the motion that the municipal district of Taber approve entering into an intermunicipal agreement with the Taber Region Economic Development Collaboration Attachment A.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Those in favor? That motion is carried. Okay, next is the donation request from the Grassy Lake Recreation Board.
Yeah, and this particular donation request is one of requesting in-kind services. I believe placement and spreading of gravel in the parking lot of their community center.
Okay, I have one question on this. So Grassy Lake is our hamlet. They do have a standalone recreation board that isn't tied to the MD of Tabor. But I question why we wouldn't just be maintaining the parking lot to a satisfactory level without them having to make a request. And I understand, I have no issue with this request and I will vote in favor of it, but I wonder if that's something the MD of Tabor needs to look at.
I think as it relates to all of our hamlets, yeah, it's something that the MD of Tabor needs to look at.
Okay.
I wouldn't be able to speak to the word of I guess the definition of satisfactory, but I think it's just more so. The request is before council because this is how we've, at least as of late, been addressing those requests.
Yes, because I appreciate the work that's been done in all of our hamlets by the standalone rec boards. We don't even have a mandate to have a counselor on those. And so I really do appreciate the work that those volunteers are doing in our community. So I'll take any other questions or comments or a motion.
I'll just make a
Councillor Hildebrand.
I'll make a comment here. Excuse me. Comment first. The rec board in Grass Lake, they do a lot with regards to keeping things going there. And I agree with the Reeves comment there that making this this kind of a request shouldn't be part of their to-do list on top of everything else that they do. And so just your comments, they hit home, and I think they're very apt. And one of the things, you know, that quite often when I do attend there is the parking lot is a continual item that they discuss when I'm there. So with that, I'll make the motion that the Municipal District of Tabor approve a one-time in-kind, what was the amount here?
2,000.
One-kind in-kind contribution of $5,000. I think was it, or what would they ask for?
800.
Yeah.
Did they ask for 800?
But that won't meet the criteria to do the in-kind. So if you look at where the
Yeah.
It's just what was decided. It was just what's needed for it.
right.
So do we do what's needed up to?
And that,
$800.
and that meets your expectation? Okay.
Okay, so up what's needed up to $800. And then I'll need the rest of the motion.
Oh, sorry.
Of up to $800 to the Recreation Board in support of 4 hours grading and leveling work for the Grass Lake Community Hall parking lot in response to their donation request.
Okay, any comments on the read-in motion of up to $800? Those in favor? That motion is carried. Next, 8.5, tax recovery grazing lease assignment.
Director Serena, do you want to introduce this as well?
Okay. Yeah, so we have in front of us a tax recovery grazing lease assignment that is the addition of Katrina Haug to Damon Haug's tax recovery grazing lease. This is as per the terms of the tax recovery grazing lease, the current existing tax recovery grazing lease, and so Damon would remain on the on the lease. He's asking for the addition of Katrina, his wife, to be added to his tax recovery grazing lease. There is a fee associated with the addition, and I believe it's been highlighted on here. It's $100 because it is a family addition, and it is. I guess I should state the lease consists of only 1/4 of pasture, and that's located on the southeast of 1218 west of the 4th. And we are certainly here to take any questions.
Go ahead, Councillor Hildebrand.
So what is the term of this lease?
As with all the other tax recovery leases, they expire February 28th, 2026.
So they're requesting an addition for the last few months.
I guess not knowing what those terms look like yet either. Council hasn't decided on what those new tax recovery leases will entail, so they're unaware of what that looks like, I guess. They're just securing that.
This particular lease is expiring.
Yes.
And there are no terms for extension on the lease?
No.
Any further questions? If not, then a motion from council. Okay, you may go ahead.
Is this a cultivation? Or this is grazing, right? Yeah, okay. So I just want to make sure I'm not offside here.
Okay. Go ahead.
Give me the motion. The Municipal District of Taber approve the addition of Katrina Haug to Damon Haug's tax recovery grazing lease as per the assignment terms of the Municipal District of Taber's tax recovery grazing lease.
Those in favor? That motion is carried. 8.6 bulk water stations hardware upgrade POS purchase.
So Director Passy will kind of expound in a little bit more detail, but what's being proposed here is ultimately, in addition to updating some other softwares, at the same time incorporating the capacity or the ability at these bulk fill stations to have point of sale capability, point of sale purchase capability. We just feel that it would be provide better access and better service for those that regularly use it.
Yeah, so since about April of this year, there's been some intermittent issues with specifically the Haze devices there, that the hardware that to make that communication happen back to our systems here at the office for people being able to access their bulk water. It's an old, the term is a PLC. It's an old piece of hardware for that one. The Vauxhall and the Grassy Lake ones have already been updated to the new that new hardware. So it is the Haze and the Enchant hardware that needs to be updated. What happens when these fail is it doesn't communicate back to our offices, and so people may load money onto their bulk water accounts. They go to redeem it, and it doesn't show up on their account to be able to redeem and access and purchase water. And so that's one aspect of it. The other aspect is just updating the service level of being able to make purchases at the station itself rather than having to come in and prepay. There's no more, it would allow so people don't have to drive to the offices to make the prepay or do their online banking to make the prepay. And then we manage their accounts in a different way.
these upgrades would still allow for some prepay aspects, but the people would be able to manage the prepay from their own home as well through on an account, a bulk water account online through a portal. As well as we invoice, I think it's 4 or 5 companies that we send out invoices for the water. We can still continue to do that in the same way. It's the same software, moves it to a different, to a cloud-based software and allows for that greater access to the systems at the stations. And so there's hardware already needing to be replaced. It's just an extra cost then to install that point of sale portion as well. And that's why we're seeking to get that funding available, half from the computer reserve and half from the water capital reserve to make those upgrades at this time. If other options would be to put it off to into the budget discussions or something like that, but at this time I don't know, maybe I feel for the operators who have to come in and install it. It's still nice weather at this point rather than say in January and have them come in January to make the installations happen, but it's in the end it's about the same.
Questions? I mean, I never like to see that notification come across SCAR or our social media that we have a water station down, because it's, to me, that is critical infrastructure. And for those of us who haul our water, it is how we drink, operate our homes. So I like that we have an alternate means. And with the number of repairs, I am comfortable with having to go into our reserves. This doesn't feel optional. This feels like important.
I'll make the motion that council approve up to 20,000 from the computer reserve and up to 20,000 from the water capital reserve for upgrades to the bulk water station and provide an on-site point of sale transaction.
I'll go to Councillor Takeda for his question.
More of a comment. I think this is going to be very beneficial to everybody that purchases water, being able to be more flexible when purchasing water.
Thank you. Any other questions? The motion reads that council approve up to 20,000 from the computer reserve and up to 20,000 from the water capital reserve for upgrades to the bulk water stations and providing for on-site point of sale transactions. Those in favor? That motion is carried. Okay, we're looking now at Township 12, Range 14, Road Development and Design, a budget amendment.
So with specific to the identified roads here, what administration is seeking from council for consideration is to authorize expenditure of design, engineering and design work for these roads, essentially so that can begin now in an effort to meet timelines for project procurement early next year, followed by construction beginning in the construction season of 26, i.e. spring of 26. So it's really in an effort to hit timelines and move the overall project forward in a timely manner. At this point, what's only being requested is for the design works, simply because the remainder of the project will be incorporated into the 2026 capital budget.
Okay, questions?
Can we see it on a map? Is that possible?
Was there a figure attached to this?
No.
Yeah, I will pull up.
You can pull it up from our past council or committee, yeah, past council meeting.
Like the road layout is what you're asking for?
But just the
area?
Just the area.
Yeah, so if you
Pull
go
us the area.
to the last council meeting, there's an attachment of the map.
Okay, just one sec here. August 19th. Where is it? Maybe I'm in the wrong meeting. Can I just bring up the area on Google Maps? This is the general area here.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay, so the request is to have, well, that's not it. The request is so that we can authorize resources to do a design of Township 12, Range 14 road development and design. Any other questions or comments regarding this? It will come, it's an allocation from reserves or capital grants for the purpose of the design. We have talked about this. We have a motion in favor of pursuing the project. And this is one aspect of the project that identifies where resources will come from to move forward.
I can make the motion that the Municipal District of Tabor amend the 2025 capital budget to include the Township 12 Range 14 Road Development Project and allocate $300,000 from reserves or capital grants for the purpose of engineering design.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Those in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you. Moving on to policies, the club route policy.
So this particular policy, part of our regular policy review, has gone through Agricultural Services Board with, as you see in the resolution from that board, it's being recommended for consideration by council. And I can have Corey speak to the details around what's being proposed or changed or within the policy.
Thanks, Arliss. Yeah, the revisions to the policy are just more clerical revisions, trying to make the policy more clear and easier to understand.
All right. Councillor Takeda.
I give you the motion that the municipal district of Tabor adopt the changes to the club route policy.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Those in favor of the read in motion? That motion's carried. Okay. Everything above number 10 has been covered, right, Lace? Okay, so we don't have a consent agenda today, so we don't need that. This time, council requests for information and motions. Seeing none, we have 4 items in closed session. It is 11:34, so I propose I quickly read in the 4 items. We go into closed session, then we'll come out, take a break at noon, if depending on where we're at, and then we'll have to go back into closed session. So the closed session items, the first one is section 1972 of MGA section 20, access to information, disclosure harmful to business interests of a third party, a land purchase request. That is the same, very separate item for number 2, but same criteria. Number 3 is advice from officials, test procedures, tests and audits, and privileged information. And the 4th item is the advice from officials regarding the CEO, the Reeves question, the answers that, and municipal affairs information handout. Okay, a motion to go into closed.
Motion to go into close.
Those in favor? All right, we will resume out of closed session, looking for a motion.
Motion to come out of closed.
Those in favor? It's carried. We have a couple of motions to come out of closed. Someone's prepared to make one.
I can move that council direct administration to consult with the proponent and prepare a land sale proposal incorporating the conditions discussed and present the proposal at a future council meeting.
Thank you.
One comment, can we identify which agenda item this pertains to so we're perfectly clear?
Yes.
In Enchant? The proponent in Enchant?
Or you want to, if that's the, we say in Enchant or whatever.
The name is listed on our agenda, so we
Okay.
could actually include the proponent's
Okay.
name on that one. Okay. Is that still okay for you, Marie?
Yep, want me to read it again?
I'll read it for you. Okay, I'll move that council direct administration to consult with Mr. Stamp and prepare a land sale proposal incorporating the conditions as discussed and present the proposal at a future council meeting. Those in favor? Those opposed? That motion is carried. All right, the second motion. And perhaps on this one, because it is been, we should put the agenda item number and whatever the current agenda item is. Yeah, well, which will be in the minutes. Just because those numbers changed as we move things along.
Could we continue instead of further?
Go ahead.
I can move that council direct administration to send the proponent acknowledgement of the receipt regarding their proposal agenda item 14.2 of the September 9th regular council meeting and will continue to discussion related to the matter once the policies and procedures regarding sale of land are adopted.
Any comments or questions? Those in favor? That is approved. It's passed. Okay, any other resolutions rising from closed session? Seeing none, have we completed all of the agenda items? Okay, last motion.
Motion to adjourn.